No, it's taking a video. It's counting down.
Is it video? Okay.
It's counting down.
I'm hoping this works, Del. Hi, Del. Okay. I'm so excited to be able to do this. It's always been my passion forever and ever to help people to have healthy lives and to live better and to feel better and to just enjoy life better. And when we're feeling well and we're healthy, life is a lot more enjoyable, right? And so I wanted to just start off. I got a little outline here so I don't forget anything that's important. My training is nutrition education. And I started my classes, doing the nutrition education classes, which is a 4-class series. And what it does is it teaches people how to change how they nourish their bodies. And it shows the food, and you get to try the food, and I give the recipes, and I go over all the relationships of disease and nutrition and how food affects our bodies in very specific ways, as well as all the research that shows what works and what doesn't work. And there's a lot of mixed information out there that confuses everybody. And I like to be part of the clear voice that explains the truth in a way that changes people's lives, not just fill their head with stuff. So that's what I'm hoping this class will do. We're going to be doing 3 different recipes that are very simple and easy to do. The title of the class today is Quick and Easy Suppers. And we all have very busy lives, and we want things to be quick and easy. I chose these particular recipes mainly because they're absolutely delicious, and everybody loves them. And when we go over each one, you'll see why. The barbecue beans and rice is a hit no matter where you serve it. I've brought massive amounts to big events, and everybody wants the recipe. And then they always tell me afterward, I made that and had neighbors over and they wanted the recipe. And the nice thing is you don't have to tell people it's healthy. Because when you tell them it's healthy, they think they won't like it. So they automatically have this preconceived notion it's not going to taste good. Of course, if they're willing to try it anyway, they usually admit, oh, that's not bad. I remember one time being at a barbecue and having the veggie burgers on the grill. We brought our own. And somebody else, we were missing one. We knew we had 4, and somebody else I think he got our burger. And we watched him. We didn't say anything to him. He took a bite, right? And he's looking at this thing. He's kind of making a face, looking at it. And I think that's what my husband said. I think you got one of our veggie burgers. And he goes, not bad. Now, would he have tried it first without knowing? I don't know. But anyhow, so you don't have to tell people everything's healthy unless they're looking to be healthier and they want that knowledge. Then, of course, tell them, try this. This is great, and it's also very healthy. But I'm learning over the years not to say something's healthy. So anyhow, I chose these recipes because they just taste amazing. I also chose them because they're extremely fast to make. I mean, in under an hour, we're going to prepare 3 meals. And so very easy to do. You can pick a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday evening and prepare 3 different dishes for the week and get you through the week, lunches, dinners. And you can change them up a little bit depending on what you put them over or what you pair them with. So you can, it's wonderful. And then another, besides the health benefit, is the cost benefit. I mean, these meals are so cheap and easy. You can actually eat very, very healthy, plant-based whole food diet in like less than $5 a day and have more variety than you can imagine. And people who are on really extremely limited budgets, I actually figured out a meal plan for people to eat 6 times a day, very healthy, for about $1.50 a day per person. So that's one of the huge blessings of eating this way is how much money you save. So you get people who say, well, how can you afford to buy all those fruits and vegetables? They're so expensive. Well, we're spending money on stuff that's destroying our health that costs a lot. And so when you transition over, beans and rice are dirt cheap. Lentils are dirt cheap. I mean, it's really not that expensive. So anyhow, that's why I chose these recipes. Now we're going to go over. Hopefully, you're going to learn about cooking and eating healthy from today. Also, understanding the basics of oil-free cooking, because we will not be using any oil to cook these meals, and you will not notice it's missing. And then I want you to understand why fiber is necessary for good health. That's another plus that I want you to know about. And just to gain knowledge of a whole food plant-based way of eating and living, because it's so good for you. So I'm going to just kind of review the recipes. I have these printed out for you. So you're going to be going home with these. Here they are. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making disorderly lentils, and I love this one. And this is adapted. This is one of my favorite books of all time, John McDougall, Quick and Easy Cookbook. If you don't have this, I recommend you get it. It's one of my favorites. I've got a handful of real favorites. I recently bought, for this class, I bought the Forks Over Knives Cookbook, and oh my goodness, and I'm not just saying that because you're watching down, but really the recipes in there. There's this cream cauliflower that you can use as a cream sauce. So things, yeah, it's amazing.
It's delicious.
It is. See, even my daughter loves it. So so there's that. I would recommend you get that one too, Forks Over Knives Cookbook, and it's a little bit more. The recipes aren't all simple and easy. There are a lot that are simple and very easy and quick to do, but there are ones that when you got a little time and you want to experiment and you want to really, get your palate going. He toasts a lot of spices and there's a lot of different things in there that are fun. But my favorite is the cream cauliflower because what it does is it creates a cream sauce using cauliflower and plant milk. And so there's absolutely no fat, no dairy, and it's rich and creamy. You can make, all these wonderful cream dishes that you thought you had to give up, and they're healthy. So I love that part. So anyhow, so that's where a lot of these, but we adapted these a little bit to our changes, and so the adaptations are what I printed out here for you. We're going to be doing the disorderly lentils. We're going to be doing that first. Preparation time is about 15 minutes. Now I've pre-chopped and pre-measured everything so that it would go smooth and easy. But if you were to do this, if you needed to chop all these things, it really doesn't take that long. You're talking chopping an onion and a pepper, chopping some onion, and one sweet potato. That's just one large sweet potato. And this one is just chopping some onion and some pepper and putting everything together. So even if, it might take you 15 or 20 minutes to do the prep work, to get ready to make these. And of course, you could just do one thing at a time. You wouldn't have to have them all ready to go at the same time. So we're going to do the disorderly lentils first. And it's just 1 cup of red lentils, 2 cups of water, half an onion chopped, half a red bell pepper chopped, 1 cup of oil-free spaghetti sauce. And I did give you a list on the second page of some oil-free pasta sauces that you can buy. Okay, we like the Bertolli. And then there's a quick and easy oil-free, sugar-free pasta sauce recipe that I thought you would enjoy. That is really easy to do. We're not going to do that today because we're already doing 3 things. But I thought if you had trouble finding oil-free sauces, and it's so quick and easy to make this, 15 minutes practically from start to finish. So, and it's very simple. You can use all dried spices that are on here: dehydrated garlic, minced dried onion, dried parsley, dried oregano, dried basil. Some red pepper flakes if you want it to be a little spicy. But you can also use fresh onion and garlic if you want to as well. I made that addition and changed that up for you so you can use a little fresh onion and garlic in there. Obviously, you could put sauteed pepper in it. You can jazz it up and change it up however you want, but it's a way to make an oil-free pasta sauce. So that's just a little bonus. Okay? And then, of course, I've got everything measured in here. And I've got my spices all together: parsley flakes, bay leaf, basil, got the fresh garlic all minced right here. The spaghetti sauce is already measured out, so we've got everything there. And then for the sweet potato dal, you've got your 1 large sweet potato, peeled and cubed. It is important that the cubes are fairly uniform, otherwise you might get some bigger pieces that won't cook through and will be kind of hard. Or if they're too small, they're going to mush up and you won't find them. So it's kind of important. That's one point in here that's sort of important to do. And then we've got the onion chop. Believe it or not, that is a small onion chop. It looks like a lot. The 3 garlic cloves, the red pepper flakes, the turmeric, the garam masala, which I've got in here with the turmeric. And garam masala, in case you've never used it before, have you used it? Yes? I love the smell. Now, what this is this is a blend of spices. If you've ever looked, it has coriander, pepper, cumin, cardamom, and cinnamon. I went on YouTube and I found it's called, what was it? It was the curry. Something about curry. It was a little website, but it was on YouTube. I just Googled garam masala spice, make it. And there was these 2 young Indian women, and they made their own garam masala. Now, what I found was interesting was that the garam masala that we buy, it has actually been toasted Like you have to put all these spices together in a pan and you have to toast them. And the cardamom is this big hard thing that you have to actually break with a pestle and get the seeds out, and then they grind it all together after it's been dry roasted. And she said, so what she said was, if it has not been dry roasted, you can make your own garam masala and not do the dry roasting part. Just take all the spices and grind them up together in like a coffee grinder or if you have a Vitamix, you know, that kind of thing. But which you have. But anyhow, the neat thing was, she said, so if you don't dry roast first, you have to put it in through the cooking process. But if the one you buy, or if you dry roast it first, you can put it in at the end. So there's the difference. She said sometimes people get confused, so I figured that would be a good thing to teach you, so that if you came across that, you wouldn't be like, am I supposed to put it in before or after? So you may come across recipes that will tell you before or after, but it may be based on whether it's been dry roasted or not. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. And then of course we got the cup of vegetable broth, the lentils, half cup of dried lentils, 4 cups of spinach. It's all cleaned and washed, and a little bit of salt to taste. And then the last one we're going to do is the barbecue beans and rice. Obviously, it's got water, the red bell pepper, the onion, the beans. I've already drained and rinsed these beans. Now, your recipe says black beans, and I should have corrected this because we use the pink beans, which I like. You can use any bean you want. Yeah. You can, and that's the thing. The original recipe calls for 4 different colored beans. It makes it kind of like a rainbow, you know. But we like the pink beans, so we use them. But you can use the red, the black, the white, you know, cannelloni. I mean, you can use any kind of bean you want. That's the nice thing about this. And then, of course, the barbecue sauce, again, has to be oil-free. So we use Casey Masterpiece, which I know is not an uberly healthy sauce, but it has no oil, and it tastes good. And you can get it right in the supermarket. You don't have to go to a co-op or a special place. What was that? It's your favorite one, yeah. So, and it tastes really good. So that's why we use that one. So that's pretty much the recipes. What we're going to start off with is the disorderly lentils, because that is so simple and easy to make. All you do is put everything in the pot and turn it on. It couldn't be easier. So we're going to do the lentils. We're going to do the water and the onion and the pepper. Kind of nice when all this is all done. Right? It'd be nice if you had some magic little imps to see. Now, my husband is a cook by nature, and he does most of the prepping, like the holiday meals and things. He does all the prepping, and I do all the cooking. And the prepping is always the worst part of a holiday meal. Yeah. So I'm very spoiled because I can just have fun and cook all those wonderful meals, and he does all the work. But to him, it's no big deal because he's so used to it, and he does it so quickly. That's the garlic. Yes. Now, the one thing about the spice also is there is a bay leaf in here, and you want to make sure that people who aren't aware of the fact that a bay leaf is really not an edible leaf, because it's not going to taste real good getting that whole bay leaf into their mouth. I like using wooden spoons. They're my favorite. So they tend to really do well on the bottom. And you see this. But the nice thing about this is there's nothing to saute. There's no extra steps. You just put it all in like that. And that's it. And we're going to put this on the back of the stove. You're going to want to bring it up to a low boil, which means you don't want it to be overflowing the pan. And then turn it down and let it simmer. So we're going to turn this on and put it on high so that it can get up to a nice hot temperature. So that's our first dish, and it's basically done except for the cooking. Couldn't be quicker, couldn't be easier, right? That's what I love about that one. Okay. Now, next what we're going to do is we're going to work on the sweet potato dal, because that actually has a couple of steps to it. And this one is pretty basic as well. So we're going to do some sauteing here. And your recipe actually tells you to line a pot with a thin layer of water and saute the onion and the garlic. Now, garlic can sometimes burn a little bit. So you're better off to start the onion a little ahead of time. And if you're using a nice heavy bottom pan, you don't really need to add water initially. You can get it going and wait until it starts to stick and then just add a little bit of water. So I'm going to get this going here. And about a medium to a medium low heat, because if you go higher than that, you're going to worry about burning everything. And it'll take a couple of minutes to get going. But garlic can burn a little quicker, so you're better off to do the onion first and then add the garlic. So the thing about oil-free cooking that I find so fascinating is that most people think, well, how can you cook anything without oil? You know, it's all going to stick. You got to have the oil. You have to have. And water, or the onion, has such a water content to it. Peppers have such a water content to them that they create the liquid that you need. And they'll get that nice caramelization, which gives it that wonderful flavor. And I like to tell this story because, and you may have heard me tell this before, but my husband, who's a Greek cook, was very resistant to oil-free sauteing because, of course, you know, growing up in a Greek kitchen with a father who's a Greek chef, the olive oil is a big thing. And so, right, exactly. They grow the olives over there. So I found it interesting that he was kind of resistant to that. He kept thinking that you needed it. And I said, well, that's okay, because I really did not want any more oil in my food. All that I was learning in my classes and how much this oil was affecting my life, my circulation. You know, we're told that olive oil is a healthy thing. There's no such thing as a healthy oil because it's really concentrated fat and calories. And if you were to just eat a handful of olives, you would never get the amount of olive oil that you get by pouring it in your food. So it's not a natural way to get the olive oil in your body at all. Very concentrated. So I decided to make myself something, and all I did was saute some onions and peppers. And at the end, I put some spices, a little oregano, a little basil. Those are my favorites. And I threw those in there, and I threw some brown rice in there that was already cooked. And I added some chopped tomato, I think was it. And that at the end, I didn't really want it to cook, but it would heat through, because that's all you really need to do with chopped tomato. And it was heavenly, and it smelled so good, and it was delicious. And I'm whooping down this bowl of rice and veggies, and my husband said, "Oh, that smells good. Can I have some?" I said, "Sure." So he had some, and he tasted it. He said, "This tastes so good. What did you do to it?" And he said, "There's no oil in it." And he said, "Okay, I'll cook without oil," because I showed him it could.
Yeah.
He was so resistant, thinking you needed the flavor or you needed it to cook things with. So I thought that was pretty cute. And so I tell people, I go, if I can get a Greek cook to cook without olive oil, you can get anybody to cook without olive oil. And the nice thing is when you make these foods, you don't even have to tell people there's no olive oil in it. You know? Now, if they want the recipe, now you're going to want to tell them, there's no oil in that. Or they're going to say, did you leave out the oil? So the onions are starting to cook. And I'm going to add the garlic so that has a little chance to flavor that up. And then this recipe is one that has you add, as the peppers and onions are cooking, it has you add 1 or 2 pinches of the red pepper flakes. And I think that just helps to infuse that flavor into the onions and garlic.
Did you forget about the tomatoes?
Forget about the
stewed tomatoes?
Yes, I did not open the can. You're right. Did you open that for me? So, thank you. Now, this is cooking nicely, and I haven't had to add a thing. I haven't added water. I haven't added oil. So the recipes are designed for people who aren't used to cooking without oil. And so that you always are successful and nothing bad happens to your foods. So that's an important part. And then you don't have to worry about things sticking and not being correct. So this is moving along nicely. And then once we get this going to the next step, we'll start the barbecue beans and rice. As you can see, if you want to come over and just take a peek and see how this is not sticking. It's not sticking at all. So if you can cook it all, but you can see the garlic does start to turn brown quickly. So that's why you have to be careful in not adding it too early or it will be burnt.
I've used the water. Actually, I've cooked that fish.
You made it?
I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Donna's shy of hitting on the camera.
Oh.
That part. I using that. See, Linda forgot. That's okay. I'm just going to give a little stir to my lentils here. That's starting to boil nicely. So now I'm just going to turn that, give it a stir and make sure it's boiling again. With the simmer, you really want it to have a nice boil to it, and then turn it down low. And that's where you still get the little bubbles.
Yeah.
But it's not going to boil over, and you do want to keep it covered so that the moisture is lost. So oil-free cooking is actually very, very simple. Now once, as you can see in your recipe here, once you cook it until all the water is cooked off, of course we have no water in there, we're just going to saute that onion until it's nice and soft and translucent. And then we're going to add the turmeric and the garam masala to coat it. And then we add a cup of the broth and the uncooked lentils and bring to a boil. So that couldn't be easier. I'm going to coat it with the spice right now. Now the nice thing about these recipes is obviously you can double it if you want to make a bigger portion. And most of these double nicely. Some recipes you have to be concerned that you double it. You don't want quite as much extra of this or that. But these double in half really, really nicely. So, matter of fact, I think I did have the lentil recipe. The original one has 6 to 8 servings, and I cut it down to be 3 to 4. So. Turn my lentils down because they're getting raw.
Smells delicious. Doesn't it? You really get to smell the flavors.
Yes. So, I know if you walked in and you smelled this, even at like a holiday, right? You wouldn't miss it. You wouldn't miss the meals that most people eat on the holidays. That isn't so good for their health. So we're going to add the lentils and the broth. The onions are pretty much done. Now the vegetable broth, obviously you want one that is not loaded with oil. Believe it or not, some vegetable broths do have a lot of oil in them. And if you're concerned about salt is not the big wicked villain that everybody thinks it is. There's really a lot of the research about salt has taught that salt isn't the natural killer that we think it is. But if you are concerned about salt because of dietary problems, you want to get a low salt or a no salt broth. That would be important. Now I have the masala out because when you make this recipe, it recommends that you use 1/4 teaspoon of the garam masala first. You'll see it on step 3. Add the turmeric and 1/4 teaspoon of garam masala and stir to coat. Then you add the broth and the uncooked lentils and bring to a boil. Well, toward the end, you can add more garam masala because very often you want more. And that's kind of important to taste because it does taste so good that you sort of want it. So right now we're going to bring that to a boil, and then we're going to reduce the heat to low. We're going to cover it and simmer it for about 5 minutes just to get the lentils going. Now you can use different lentils if you want, but different lentils have different sizes. So the red lentils are small and they're faster cooking. They don't take long to cook at all. If you wanted to use the green lentils, they increases the cooking time by about 10 or 15 minutes. The green lentils? Yes. Yes. There is a big difference in their taste, their presentation, their ability to, yeah. So, that might be why you didn't like it, because it was always tasty. And you thought you did something wrong, right? Yeah. So, Yes, that's a good.
Good to know.
Okay, so now this is boiling. I'm going to cover that.
Maybe that's why. When I found the red ones, I wouldn't do them.
Simmered. The red ones I've found you can't always find them.
No, that's right.
The market tends to carry them, but I know a lot of people do their shopping in the super Walmart, those kind of places, and they're not always available. So
That was the only place I found the ground.
the garam masala,
Yes.
yes, and that can be a little pricey. Now, if you ever go to the Honest Weight Food Co-op, right over in Albany, they have it by bulk, so you can get it for half the cost. So we'll spend about $5 or $6 and get twice as much than you would get. Yeah, it's another thing you have in your bag.
It's like a top shelf.
Because you buy it by bulk, and then because we go through so much of it, right? You know, because we do a lot of recipes with an Indian flavor. We love Indian food. We love Thai food. We love all the international foods. It's so nice that we have so many people traveling nowadays, and all the wonderful restaurants that we can go to. It's great. Okay, so while that goes down, that takes about 5 minutes for that to go. So I'm going to set a timer so that we don't lose track of what we're doing for that one.
Just be careful. Sometimes that timer sticks.
And now we're going to work on the barbecue beans and rice. And so for that one, again, that tells you to start with a 1/4 cup of the water, onion, bell pepper, and cook. And so I'm going to just do that the way the recipe calls. So I'm just going to put my little 1/4 cup of water. I've got 1 1/4 cups here measured. So I'm just going to pour out 1/4 cup. There we go. And then we're going to add the onion and pepper. Now this is the all-time favorite for everyone, which is why I serve this in my very first class in my series, because it is such a winner. I absolutely love this. Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, you don't have to tell them it's healthy. You don't have to tell them it's oil-free and whole brown rice and all those things. You can just let them enjoy it. That's all that matters. And the other good thing about these meals is how high fiber they are. And fiber, we all know we need it. And there's always that joke, you know, when somebody's kind of grumpy, you want to ask them, got fiber? Because we need to be regularly eliminating from our bodies, or we're going to have a lot of health issues. And constipation is a huge issue in this country. You know, there's a lot of medications out there for that problem. And the interesting part is, all you need to do is be getting the correct amount of plants in your body, which automatically give you all the soluble and insoluble fiber that you need. You know, the insoluble fiber is what kind of helps to flush out the body. The soluble fiber is what creates the bulk, because it swells up from the water, and or the fluid that's in the foods that you've eaten and in your body. And, you know, you're going to be healthy and happy and eliminating regularly, and it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. And unfortunately, a lot of people who take a lot of medications, they have a lot of issues with being regular. And sometimes just changing their diet keeps them from having to take one more medication because they're not regular. So, and obviously the goal when you're on a whole food plant-based diet is to get off all medications, which I have seen people do. So now the onions and peppers are cooking nicely. And again, that takes about 5 minutes for that to cook down. Our lentil dish is doing wonderful. Smelling heavenly. Turn that down just a little bit. This is a nice set of German cookware. I remember Bob mentioned that. But I love this stuff because it just really does a wonderful. It's that waterless cookware, so to speak, you know, that you can, because it really does keep the flavors in. That 5 minutes is almost up. So what we do for that one, the sweet potato dal, after we've already done steps 1 through 4, Now what we're going to do, I'm sorry, 1 through 5. 5 is almost done. We're going to add the sweet potatoes. We're going to bring it to a boil again. And then we're going to simmer it until everything is cooked through. And you may need to add a little additional broth. You want to check it. And then the spinach is the last thing because we want that not to be completely brown. So, these. Now, when I did my broth, I made it extra concentrated so that I could just add a little bit of water to this, which I think I'm going to do because I made it extra concentrated. Now, you'll see all these faucets here. This is just the regular water. This is filtered water, and this was the cup that had the broth in it. And then this is hot water for tea. And make sure you've got enough liquid to cook the sweet potatoes. Very nice.
I only have one faucet at my house.
Me too. Well, Jack?
I said I only have one faucet at my house.
So how much more water did you put in?
I added about another half a cup. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that get it up to boiling. And then just let it simmer. Again, it only takes about 5 minutes because they're just the half-inch cubes. And if they've been uniform, they should all cook really well. Barbecue beans and rice, pepper, and onion is doing nicely. Now, it's also important that you use the right size pot for the things that you're doing. You don't want so much pot and so much surface that everything will cook too quickly or dissipate all the liquid that's going on. So you want to try to match what you're cooking, your pot, to the amount of food that you're cooking. You don't want huge gaps in space. So, all these lentils are smelling so good. Now, how you can do it differently as well is the lentils. My favorite way to serve them, and I serve in the class, is over the potatoes. That is my absolute favorite. But you can obviously serve it over brown rice, which I already made a little bit earlier, and it's still hot in the rice cooker. I love a rice cooker because it's so fast and easy. There are some people who like to do it on the stove. That's fine. Brown rice takes a little extra time to cook on the stove. You can use a double boiler to cook brown rice, and then you don't have to worry about it scorching or burning on the bottom. If you've ever used a double boiler, that will work really well. And I'm sure you can find information on that in a cookbook or somewhere. That's the wonderful thing about the internet. I might not be technologically advanced, but I'm really good at finding information.
There's always Google.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And YouTube,
Would there be enough moisture in the rice if you do it in the double boiler? Or you put the water in
Yes.
the double boiler?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. You're actually cooking the rice,
Right.
but you're cooking it in the double boiler so that it's not directly on the flame. And you know how that's the big problem with rice. It sticks, right? And it scorches and it burns, and it's hard to, and whole brown rice takes a lot longer to cook than white rice.
Sometimes I forget to keep in mind.
Yeah, yeah. So see, that's where the rice cooker is nice. Now there's also another option that is wonderful, and we've used it here, is that you can buy quick cooking brown rice, and it'll cook in 10 minutes. It's a convenient, it's instant brown rice.
Yes.
Do we have some in the
No
cabinet?
preservatives.
I can show it to people.
It's hand straws. It's instant.
Yeah, long grain, instant brown rice.
Oh, nice.
So it actually cooks in reduce heat, cover and simmer for 5 minutes. Remove the heat and stir, cover and let stand 5 minutes.
Wow.
That could not be easier, could it?
And there's nothing else
And
in
there
it?
is nothing in it. Pre-cooked, parboiled, whole grain brown rice.
Wow. Well, it's learning about things because I think, now how are they keeping it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So this
that
is a
is
great
good.
alternative for you.
That's one of my grocery lists.
There you go.
Yeah, good, right?
My essentials is
Hannaford.
Walmart, I think.
No, it's
Hannaford.
Good to know. Thanks.
Yes, I'm
All
proud
kinds
of
of
that.
tips
Somebody
today.
asked
I
me
know.
some, a quick cooking brown rice and said, well, I wouldn't use that because it's part of that stuff in it. Some of them do, but this one isn't like that.
All right, now the lentil is pretty much done. So I'm gonna keep doing starting to heat off on that one. Let it sit. We're going to lower the heat on this one because we just wanted it to simmer until those potatoes are done. Make sure nothing's sticking here. Almost ready. It's time. We're almost ready to add that one. So the sweet potato dal is, we're waiting for those potatoes to cook through. It's going to need a few more minutes. And then once that's all cooked, and the sweet potatoes are fork tender, we're going to add the spinach and season with a little salt. So we can add a little more garam masala if we want to. Yes.
So I'm going to get to eat it.
Yes, you're going to get to eat it. Of course.
Yeah, that's what my dad would say.
Okay, so everything is good. The assorted lentils are done. Barbecue beans and rice, the peppers and onions are almost ready for us to add the rest of the ingredients. And that was pretty simple because you add everything else, and then once it's all heated through, you add the rice, and that's done. So all of these meals are so fast and easy and so delicious and so good for you, loaded with fiber. Now, the benefits of the whole food plant-based diet. A lot of people think, that they're going to have to munch on grass, right? There are people who say, well, what if I don't like this? Or what if I don't like that? There's so many different foods to eat that are not animal products and are not processed and are not loaded with oils and all of the other stuff. There's no limit. I think we limit ourselves because, I don't know about you, but I grew up in the era where, you had pork chops and canned peas and, a baked potato on your plate. So we never thought of variety when it comes to plant food. But the number of vegetables and fruits and plants that are out there, even the grains, you don't have to stick to brown rice. You can cook millet. You can cook quinoa. I use the things that are most familiar to people in my classes because I don't want them to be completely overwhelmed by too much new. So it's things they're familiar with yet taste amazing. So everyone says, I can do this. I can go home and make this. This is not a foreign object. My family will eat this, and it's successful. So what I find is as you go along with a whole food plant-based diet, you add variety, try different things, experiment a little bit. Once you've got your feet wet, you've got some confidence making these recipes. And most of us stick to the same, before you eat a whole food plant-based diet, there was probably maybe 5 or 6 recipes that you made all the time, over and over and over, right? So you don't need to learn 150 recipes to change how you're eating. You only need to find 4 or 5, and then gradually build on that. And you can change things around. Like I said, the lentils, just based on what you put them over, can completely change the meal. You can even eat it if you cook it extra thick. You can even eat it like a sloppy Joe.
Ooh.
Tacos that you did.
Yes. Oh, the lentil tacos. Yes, lentil tacos are wonderful. Those you use the green lentils because you want them to be a little bit meatier, firmer to hold up. Because the red lentils kind of.
And it's supposed to be in place for meat.
Correct. It's supposed to be the meat alternative.
I'm not doing all of them, but anything. So.
Yes, they are a great substitute for that.
I really like them.
And then I first had a lentil taco at one of the events that I spoke at for New Zealand. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I've got to go home and make this. So that's the nice thing. You'll try something somewhere and then you go home and you try to figure out how to do it. So, okay, so this is off here a little bit. And we're going to add the rest of the ingredients for the barbecue beans and rice. We have to add the rest of the water. I'm talking away, I got this a little too warm, so I got to add this water carefully. add the beans, and barbecue sauce. Said I had already drained and rinsed these. I'm just putting back in pans and see if it was 4 cans. Obviously, you can have this because this makes quite a good batch of beans. And the barbecue sauce, which is the original recipe only called for, I think, 1/4 cup or 1/2 cup. And my husband is always one of those more is better kind of people. And so he didn't think that would be half enough, so he increased it. There's times I tell him sometimes more isn't better, but in this case he was right. So it really does make a big difference when you have more barbecue sauce in there. It gives it a lot of flavor. This is the stewed tomatoes. I like to cut them up just a little bit, and I don't know, it just says stewed tomatoes on your recipe. I try to cut them just a little because you don't want great big chunks in there, but I think they will break down. So I'm just going to put them in there. If you're stirring it up good as they heat through, they'll all break down.
I used chopped tomato.
Chopped tomato? Yeah.
I found that was the first time I used the stewed tomatoes. I thought they were too chunky. So
And that's why you can, just take them and I'll just put them in a bowl and it makes your hands a little messy. I just pick them up and just cut them into smaller pieces. Because the stewed tomato does give it a little bit of a different flavor than the chopped tomatoes.
Yes.
Stewed tomatoes are a little sweeter. They have a different flavor to them.
Some of them are like Italian, seasoned with Italian.
That's the other thing, yes. You can get a nice different flavorings in there, different spices. You can make these once you've made them. You can, what? I think it would be good if I try this or if I try that, so that even though it's a similar recipe, it's not all the same. And these potatoes look like they
Making it ready.
just about done. Yes, I would say these potatoes. You want them to be fork tender. So I'm going to double check that they are. Yes, sweet potatoes are fork tender. So now, as your recipe tells you, once the sweet potatoes are fork tender, you add the spinach and stir. And that you want to stir until it cooks down and softens, because it looks like a lot, 4 cups, but it will disappear quite rapidly.
Once it gets to spinach juice out, it really disappears.
Yes.
Shapes.
It does disappear. And it's funny because I remember the first time I ever cooked a green leafy something, and I made greens and beans soup. I think it was like a sort of that Italian greens and beans soup. The name just escaped me now. You know what I'm talking about?
And is it like that one about monopoly?
yes, pasta fazool.
Yes.
Yes, that's what it's thinking. They make a good one about an apple and lemon, and it's very fresh. I don't even know if they put oil in it. I don't think I've asked them, but I don't think it is. Because some soups you can just see it and taste it. I don't think it was oil in it because it doesn't look like it.
It's really good though. It's got like little round pastas and like a lot of good, like delicious tomatoes and so good.
There's another name for just greens and beans. My niece makes it.
Yes, there is, and the name is escaping me.
For a short time, you always remember.
That spinach has pretty much disappeared. It was popping out of the top of the pot, and now it's right down in there. You can add a little salt to taste. Now, I'm going to add just a little bit more garam masala because I do like it. I think it gives it a wonderful flavor. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little in there. Not too much, probably less than 1/4 teaspoon. And that's the thing too, once you're cooking, I really rarely measure things anymore. I just sort of go by eye and feel. And, half the time, you're using your hand, half a teaspoon, you just pour it in, and just, if you're off by an eighth of a teaspoon, it's really not going to make that much of a difference. I mean, there are some spices that are very potent. You want to be careful, but the majority of them are pretty simple and basic. All right, so I'm just going to let that heat through that spinach for a moment. That one's off. We're just waiting for the barbecue beans and rice. And we will have made 3 meals in less than an hour.
And delicious.
Yep. And we're going to add our 2 cups of rice. Barbecue beans and rice. That's 1 cup.
How long does it take the rice to cook in the cooker?
I think it's about 40 minutes. Is it 40, 45? It's pretty much the same as on the stove.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you're not worried about it burning.
Right.
And you're not constantly having to watch it, stir it. And you can actually, the rice cookers are kind of convenient because you can add stuff to it. You can actually cook it instead of in water. You can cook it in broth to give much flavor.
You can has made the rice dishes with the green beans and the peas and the carrots.
Yes, you can actually put vegetables in there.
You can make a meal in the rice cooker.
Cook in with that. Yeah, so
it was like curry rice. It's really good.
So it's sort of another way to cook something. Careful to slide this rice through.
So good.
Now the rice is already hot. If you have rice that was left over in the fridge, if you really do like rice with a lot of your meals, then get the quick cooking rice to save time, or just make up a big old batch of rice early in the week, and then whenever you're making something during the week, grab a cup, grab 2 cups, grab whatever you need.
How long can you keep it in the refrigerator?
I've kept the rice in the refrigerator well over a week, and it's been fine.
My daughter's doing the brown rice for her baby. And she made it on the weekend, last weekend. She said to keep it so good. It looks good.
Yep, I've done it for over a week. You could probably get away with a little bit longer, but it's for a baby, probably. The fact that there's no animal product in it and no oil in it, there really isn't anything to go rancid or to go bad. But like any food, bacteria, if it will rot, it's food. And that's kind of where I joke a lot of the fast food places. Their food will not rot.
Yeah, the McDonald's hamburgers are good for like a year and it's still approved to eat.
Yes.
Some breads.
There's way too much preservatives in it. My favorite breads that I buy, we have a bread maker we started making, but one of my favorite breads that I buy is the Heidelberg.
Yes.
And the ingredients, there's like 3 ingredients. And if you don't put it in the refrigerator, it'll mold very quickly because there's nothing in it. So you know how healthy that bread is. If something won't rot, your body doesn't perceive it as food and you can't break it down for nutrition. So. Okay, so everything is pretty much made. We're going to have a little taste test here. And then if you have any questions, we'd like to know. I'll leave the salt there just in case you'd like it. So what would you like to try first? We have dishes where you can try a little bit of this, a little bit of that, or you can have a big bowl of something. What would you like? You want to try? You want beans and rice?
I'd like that too.
The beans and rice?
Please.
Sure. How about you? Yes. Beans and rice?
I have never had anything at Flax that didn't taste excellent.
Me neither. Everything's
I didn't pay them to say that, Dale.
No, we said that on our own.
Absolutely true. Those classes are awesome. And I tell people, you go and you take a class and you have 4-course meal and you learn something through the whole thing. It's great.
Yeah, it can't be a better setup, right? Well, I know, when I wanted to start teaching the classes, I had to figure out a way that would get people to realize that this is good, that they're not denying themselves. They're not forcing themselves to do something that they're not enjoying just because they have to. I want them to know, oh my gosh, I want to do this. This is awesome. And out of all the classes I've taught, I've had a small, very small handful who didn't stick with it, didn't really try it. Well, one, he was kind of there by default because of his fiance. He didn't really want to be there. And they've since gone on to some other diet program, expensive thing. I don't know what it is they're doing. And you just have to pray for those people because they didn't get it, you know? They didn't get it. I feel like maybe I failed somewhere.
No, because in the beginning she was starting to feel results
Yes.
by eating this thing.
She was. She was. And well, she was the one whose migraine stopped.
Right.
So
Wow.
within I think a week, just eliminating the dairy. She had horrific migraines, just eliminating the dairy. And she wants to be really hot. So be very careful. Do you want a smaller dish?
Yes. I can't eat that well.
Well, you can, but you eat a little bit, a lot.
This inspires me to go home. Now that I've seen these 3 recipes done the way she did them today, I can get back on track, I think. By cooking all 3 of them.
Yes.
And then
just,
when it all ready.
yeah.
Now, obviously, the beans and rice always taste even better
Oh,
once it's sat. You know, there's something about things blending and absorbing the flavors. But there's enough here. The barbecue beans and rice, you know, it says, how many servings does this recipe say it makes? It says 6 to 8. I mean, it probably makes more than that. It's a really nice, and it holds up really well in the refrigerator. I've had that last easily a week in the refrigerator and still reheat well and taste well. And I really believe it's because of the lack of the animal food and oil in there that makes it last longer. You know, so obviously you want to keep it safe at a safe temperature.
Right.
When you're cooking, you know, if you're traveling, if you're bringing it with you, it has to maintain a certain temperature for safety, that kind of thing. So that it's extra hot.
It's delicious.
It's
Still breathing.
Yes, yeah. I think I'm gonna have some too. So, any other questions? Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll just enjoy. All right. Bye, Del. I hope this works. If you get it, yay. You want to hit that little button for me?